Yeah, the mindset's an interesting one. Because you to get to that level of success on the field, you kind of have to have this level of what I like to call irrational confidence, right? The odds are what they are, or what they are. You understand the odds, and you understand that the odds are stacked against you, and your work ethic and your preparation kind of puts you in position to be, if it's a 1% success rate, I'm going to be the 1%. And you're kind of wired that way as an athlete, and it's really hard to turn that mindset off.
Everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Richer Geek Podcast. Today we have a very special guest. It's probably a household name to most of the people here. A seasoned business leader, once a New Orleans Saints superstar. He's probably still, I think he has a ring around that finger and around the arena. Marques Colston is joining us today. His business career is shaped by the perspectives and lived experiences gained from his journey of becoming an unlikely NFL standout. His journey from small school prospect through a decade-long NFL career taught him how success has to be earned every day. The philosophy is the foundation of Marques' post-football journey as an entrepreneur, educator, financial advisor. He has started Champion Venture Capital. It represents an opportunity for Marques to leverage his passion, skills, influence, and access to build a firm with the potential to build a legacy of doing well and good by creating access to wealth building opportunities to a more diverse group of investors. How you doing, Marques?
I'm doing well, doing well. I appreciate you having me on today.
Absolutely. Well, it's a pleasure having you on. Give us a little bit of a background after football. What made you want to sit there and say, you know what, I need to do this. I need to go into financial advising. What was the transition from catching footballs to going into finance?
For sure. So for me, it was a transition that started. I was fortunate enough to play 10 years in a world where the average career is 3.5 years. And was just blessed and fortunate to have some really good advisors early in my career that got me thinking about life after, while I was still playing. So right around my third or fourth year is when I started to think about, opportunities off the field, started to look at investment opportunities. And I want to say about year four, I made my first off the field investment. It was in a sports related company. I tried to stay, in an avenue that I knew well, and tried to shorten the learning curve a little bit. And for me, it became a place where I could connect with the entrepreneurs, like my journey from trying to get recruited, trying to build a career as a college player, then ultimately go and get my seed funding and an NFL contract. I was able to kind of connect my journey with the entrepreneur's journey, and that was kind of a light bulb moment for me that I started to realize that I can fit into this industry. I can understand what the entrepreneurs are doing, and kind of what their goals and their vision are. As a player, I'm coming into some money, so I have some capital that I can invest. And it became a place where I kind of came of age as a business person, just because when you jump into entrepreneurship and venture and kind of the whole venture ecosystem, you can take as deep of a dive as you want in any place. And that's really what I did. And I kind of took full advantage of the fact that my playing career gave me access to the ecosystem. And once I got in there, I'm a curious person by nature, and I went to find any opportunity to learn that I could. And 15 years later, I'm still in it and having a good time doing
It's been that long. It's like
it.
I just remember yesterday you beat my Indianapolis Colts. But I guess that was it 2009?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
shortly thereafter, that's kind of when I started my journey. So yeah,
Well, you got your ring. You might as well, look at some other stuff, and build it up from there. How difficult is it being a pro player, being an athlete, to make kind of that get that knowledge and sit there and say, you know what, I'm making a lot of money. I'm spending, most of them spend a lot of money. What is that mindset switch where you say, you know what, I need to protect maybe my family, my future. Tell us a little bit about that mindset, and maybe some of our listeners can sit there and say, you know what, maybe I'm dealing with that same thing also.
Yeah, the mindset's an interesting one, because you to 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 get to that level of success on the field, you kind of have to have this level of what I like to call irrational confidence, right? The odds are what they are, or what they are. You understand the odds, and you understand that the odds are stacked against you, and your work ethic and your preparation kind of puts you in position to be, if it's a 1% success rate, I'm going to be the 1%. And you're kind of wired that way as an athlete, and it's really hard to turn that mindset off.
Mhm.
um the thing that I learned is the transition becomes really tough when anything becomes really tough when you haven't laid the groundwork and you haven't done the prep work to kind of walk into the next circumstance, right? So for me, the transition is no different. It's, how can you, even while you're playing, how can you start to find these avenues to go explore? So that, look, any career transition for any one of us is a difficult transition, especially when you're going from one industry to a completely new industry, right? There's no way around that. There's going to be some adjustments, and there's going to be, just some challenges that come with that. The only thing that you really can control is how high the cliff is that you fall off of. And the thing that sports taught me is you always fall to the level of your preparation. And the more that you can, like I said, explore, the more that you can learn the things that you don't want to do, while you're actively in that spot that you're in, and you kind of have that security and you have that job security and safety, the more you can explore the different avenues that you might be interested in, the quicker you kind of start that clock. Because just like anything else, it's time on task and it's reps.
Yeah.
And if you can put yourself in those positions to find those risk-free reps and that time on task, then again, you put yourself in position to make that transition less strenuous. Because that's really all you can hope for. Because transition to transition is always going to be tough.
Yeah, well, it is. It's, I know several pro golfers being out here in Arizona, and it's hard once you start making money.
Mhm.
It's hard to stay on that top 1%, right? It's like going, hey, you know what? I'm worth X amount of dollars. Maybe I started a family. Um, that Tiger Woods mentality of, I don't care what's going on, I'm going to beat it. It's that keeping that level
Yeah.
is extremely hard. So let's talk about Champion Venture Capital. Ladies and gentlemen, Marques Colston with Champion Venture Capital. What made you start that? Get out of the financial world and say, you know what, I got to go out and do it myself.
Yeah, so I like I said, I started in VC as an investor, about 2010. Quickly kind of became an advisor consultant to go along with the investment that I was doing. I had always been a hands-on investor, to where, again, I knew I didn't come from this world, so I didn't really have the institutional knowledge to feel great about every investment decision that I made. So the way that I de-risked those investments was, I'd roll my sleeves up and I'd get engaged with the company and figure out ways to contribute. So that's kind of how I started my investing journey. Fast forward, I did that for a good 7, 8 years. Built a decent portfolio doing that. Worked at, ran business development at a smoothie company I invested in, ran biz dev for a cannabis company I invested in, done a bunch of advisory work over the time. And it got to a place where right around COVID, right around 2020, life just kind of started to shift for me. And that's when I kind of officially kind of exited venture capital. My kids were getting older, a little bit older. We had the school locked down, so I'm homeschooling. So I kind of walked away from my venture portfolio at the time, in the whole consulting business, and I kind of transitioned into, of all things, executive coaching. And in doing that work, I got a chance to work with some really high level execs at like Nike and Jordan and Boathouse Farms, and just kind of built that experience. And it was an experience I had no idea kind of existed 3 years before. When I got into it, I wasn't sure that I could do it. And sure enough, I got into it, loved it, and just fell in love with it. And that kind of set me on this trajectory where I just wanted to try new things. So I did executive coaching for a couple years. At the same time, went and got my financial licenses, my Series 7, Series 66, with this vision that I can do financial advising and kind of layer in the executive coaching with the athletes that I was working with. So that was kind of my big vision. And it everything went well until compliance had something to say. And I just kind of going back and forth enough, I realized that I couldn't execute my vision in the traditional financial services world. And when I left the last brokerage firm I worked at in 2023, the end of 2023, I had really no intentions on getting back into venture capital. I was content on the consulting and coaching world. And I reconnected with a partner of mine. We had done some work together in some sports tech startups, and we just kind of started to spitball. What could it look like to build something in sports that was an investment vehicle that got outside of the traditional 1% of folks that are able to invest in the big five leagues, right? You typically see sports investment and it's all about NFL franchises, NBA, MLS, those big five leagues, and there's only a handful of people on earth that can cut checks that move the needle in those deals. So we started to brainstorm and ideate around is there something that we could build that made sports more accessible, just because he's a former athlete himself. You know, Sports is that thing that connects us all, right?
Yep.
Whether you're a professional athlete, whether you are, played intramurals, you have your kids are playing and you're paying into the club and the travel sports ecosystem. All of us, to a man, kind of invest somehow into the sports ecosystem, and there's just not many ways to get your capital back out of it. So that was kind of our North Star when we started to think about a platform, and that was when the idea of CVP was born.
Mhm.
And we spent about 6 months just kind of perfecting it on paper before we went public with it. And right around January of last year, we launched officially, and we've been off and running ever since. And it's we've been able to gain some traction, and I think a lot of it is just based on the accessibility piece.
Mhm.
There's a lot of people that want access to alternatives. There's a lot of people that want access to sports, and in a world where those access points just don't exist, it makes what we're doing, that much more valuable.
Curious about growing your wealth, you know the best opportunities aren't always the most obvious. That's why we've partnered with Bob Bernatas of Franchise with Bob. He specializes in helping investors like you leverage franchising, an overlooked but highly profitable way to create semi-passive income. And for a limited time, Bob is giving our listeners access to his course on franchising investing for free. Inside, you'll learn how to evaluate franchises, minimize risk, and maximize returns. This course is normally priced at $499. Don't let this pass you by. Go to edu.franchisewithbob.com/RG and get your free course today.
I'll talk about a little bit. I've always said on all of our podcasts the importance of diversifying your investment portfolio.
Mhm.
And, can you give us some examples of, ladies and gentlemen, it's Champion Venture Capital, CVP, and the power of strategic diversification into the sports tech, medical, real estate? Can you give us some examples? You've talked about some sport tech. What does that mean, for us regular people? What is the diversifying inside sports?
So what's interesting is if you look at sports, the entire sports ecosystem, it's kind of a diversified ecosystem by itself, right? Most people think about the teams and the team ownership angle, but when you think about a team, most people don't think about the stadium. They don't think about, the parking lot, which is, a real estate deal. They don't think about the smart cities and the retail operations like you see in Atlanta and at the Battery, right? So there are all of these different asset classes that kind of become the picks and shovels that make sports what it is. right? So everything, like I said, from the hospitality and real estate on the stadium side, the retail side, you've got all of these technical innovations that are really driving sports forward in a different way. You turn on the Thursday night football broadcast and you see Amazon with all the analytics and um,
Yeah.
the wearable components. So when you look at sports as an asset class and you kind of start to break it down, what you see is this really diverse business landscape that has everything from service businesses to high growth technology businesses to real estate to you name it, it's in the sports ecosystem. And again, when we kind of started to peel back the layers of the onion, making sure that we're creating an investment vehicle that is accessible for folks. Diversification is huge in that because we want to make sure that folks that maybe are new to alternatives get an opportunity to, get into a vehicle that isn't going to be as volatile as we've seen some of the even the publicly traded companies have become.
Oh, yeah.
So diversification is core to what we do, and for us, it's beneficial because it's core to what makes up sports and the whole value chain of sports.
Yeah. It's the first time I saw that Amazon broadcast. I was like, oh, it's like I see the little circles, I see the routes. It was like, oh, finally, it's like Madden game, on TV. And I am sure, like you're saying with the sports tech, I cannot see uh, the rest of the networks. They've got to do something like that. I mean, that is the future of watching football. Is just absolutely amazing, and other sports.
Yeah,
Um,
it's coming. And the funny thing is, like, it's been around for a while. Even like the yellow line, the yellow first down
mhm.
marker. Even simple things like that. That technology enhances the entire experience, the entire fan and viewing experience.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Shot link, with the golf, we can see the tracer. I mean, it's just amazing how that works. How
yep.
does CVP uh, balance the social impact with financial returns and all the different decisions that you guys make?
Yeah, I think the financial returns, is a priority for us. Obviously, as an investment firm, um, you make your hay on the capital that you can return for your LPs and your investors. Um, the thing with us is the social impact component is kind of built into the platform and the structure in that, our goal is to make this accessible to more investors. And, you know, we realize and we understand that, particularly as a former athlete myself, you kind of have this platform and you have this ability to guide people and kind of shine a light in the right direction. And, we very much see ourselves in that role. And again, it starts with, curating really high quality deals
Mhm,
and making sure that we execute on those deals to create returns.
mhm.
But if we can do that for a more diverse pool of investors, then we've kind of achieved our double, our double bottom line mission of driving, significant returns for more types of investors that have typically been left out of the conversation.
Yeah. So how does, you talked a little bit about how you identify some things. So can you discuss a little bit how do you guys identify those type of game changing opportunities in the sectors that you guys have?
Yeah, a lot of the opportunities come through the strength of our team, and we were very intentional about making sure that we build a team of high performers that are not just investment professionals, but we have a team of operators that have built businesses, in the sports ecosystem, sports and tech ecosystems as well.
Mhm.
We've got, the gentleman that runs our value add strategy that, the consulting firm that kind of comes into all of our portfolio companies. He ran the sports tech program at Comcast for 4 years before he joined us. Um, Also on that staff, we've got the one of the founder of Amazon Alexa, ran innovation at Nike for a handful of years. He joined our team. Former
Wow.
SVP at MLS, and Jamil worked in the front office at NFL, at the SEC, the NCAA. He's a part of that management team. So we've built a really high level, high performing team of operators that, um, when you create outcomes and you create success in those worlds, people tend to lean on you, and that's where a lot of our deal flow comes through is these organic relationships, with people that we've either worked with in the past, people that we've delivered significant value for in the past, and quite honestly, people that understand our expertise and understand how we can help to grow companies.
Mhm.
So a lot of our deal flow has become organic. We are the what I like to call the true value add, because that's how our model is built. A lot of folks in venture talk about value add, and then they just open up their Rolodex and make some
That's it.
email intros, and I'm out the door.
Yeah, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, it's all about networking. It's all about people you know.
Yep,
Don't just sit there and say, "Well, how can I do stuff?" Well, get off your butt and start meeting people.
that's
Um,
awesome.
so, ladies and gentlemen, it's championpartners.co. That is the website. When someone clicks on there, what are some of the opportunities out there? We've talked about venture capital. We've talked about what happens and what you guys are doing. So I go and click on championpartners.co. What's on there? What kind of education? What kind of materials? And how can I get involved?
For sure. So the current website, is really kind of an overview of who we are, what we do. So you'll get a little bit of education just around the sports asset class and the different verticals in there that we're focused on. What we'll quickly be doing, probably come into Q1, Q2 of 2025, is like I said, that Evergreen Fund is coming. So you'll start to see some marketing and some information around that. Um, and our whole website and digital presence will start to kind of shift a little bit, to highlight some of the projects that we're working on. We've got some pretty interesting stuff in the queue. A couple sports tech companies that are really focused on fan engagement. Looking into a couple, uh, professional sports clubs as opportunities. We're just in a really good position to start 2025, and really excited about that Evergreen Fund coming online, because I think it's something unique and something that it's going to give a lot of people access to an asset class that they're excited about.
And what type of investor who can invest with you?
So once the Evergreen Fund goes live, we are actually open to accredited and non-accredited investors. Again, honing in on and really focusing on that access piece. We know that structure and that setup is unique, specifically in the sports asset class. So yeah, accredited, non-accredited, we'll be able to get some institutional investors in there as well. So yeah, just we're excited as this asset class grows and continues to get more and more attention.
Yeah.
We're excited about how we're positioned.
What do you think? You're looking at the sports tech, and we're just amazed now. From when I grew up in '70s and '80s, we can barely see the TV, barely see the ball going through. What
Mhm.
do you think in 5 years, 10 years? What's the fan experience? I remember the 3D games that kind of went away. Man, I bought that $10,000 3D TV that's junk.
Mhm.
But what do you think's the next thing out there for sports?
I think I think the fan experience is just going to continue to get more and more immersive. We've already started to see some of the VR,
Yeah.
the VR opportunities, the augmented reality opportunities. Sports betting is going to do nothing but keep heating up. Um, I think that there's probably going to be some more immersive media opportunities that kind of come out of this technological wave. I think at the end of the day, the fan experience is going to be one that, again, this is probably the last appointment viewing left in really on TV, right? Everything else you can kind of watch on demand.
Mhm.
You can get to it when you get to it, but sports and entertainment, that live component is always going to be it's always going to be important and always going to be valuable. So I think you're going to continue to see technology enhance that experience, make it more immersive, put people in the game, let them customize their experience, their viewpoints, their perspective. The in-stadium experience is going to keep getting better. You're going to have, digital wallets that allow you to make the whole process more seamless. You'll be able to order from your seat. You'll be able to engage from your seat. I think this wave towards a completely immersive fan experience is really at its infancy, and it's just going to continue to It's going to continue to ramp up over time.
Yeah, well, it's amazing. I mean, I can't wait. I've tried out the VR, the whole meta thing, being up, sidelines, front row, the basketball court, and it's just I can't imagine what's going to happen, 5, 10 years from now. Marquis, how can people get a hold of you or your team members for more information? Outside of championpartners.co, or is that the route to go?
Yeah, I mean that's our homepage. And we're pretty active on LinkedIn and Instagram. Our Instagram handle is CVP Invest. You can find us on LinkedIn, Champion Venture Partners. We're, like I said, we have a pretty good presence there. Try to be, mix in, some news and updates with a lot of information and education. And then on a personal level, you can find me on LinkedIn and also on Instagram. My handle is just my name, Marques Colston.
Marques Colston. And before we leave, is there anything that I have not hit on about today's topic that you'd like to share with our audience?
No, I think we've done a really good job of kind of covering all the bases. If we covered everything, you won't invite me back.
Oh, well, that's true. I almost did, because I was like, his quarterback went to Purdue, so I just don't know if I could do that. But Drew Brees is a great guy, and
he finished up in that other black and gold, so I think he got a pass.
That's right. He did. Mark, thank you so much for coming on the Richer Geek Podcast, and hope you have a wonderful day.
I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.